Hello everyone and welcome to Module 2 of Writing Your Admission Essay for Graduate School. In this module, we're going to get in depth in terms of the letter of intent, writing the personal statement, and how it goes about putting the statement of interest and your academic statements. So we're putting the pieces of puzzle together in this module of actually selling yourself to the academic programs. This is your moment of shining, and we're going to help you put everything together in this module. So the first thing we want you to do is put your personal statement together in terms of exercising as to how you're going to put it together, because the personal statement is one of the most important, crucial pieces in your admissions application, and we want to make sure you get this right. You're going to be writing this admission essay not once, not twice, maybe 3 or 4 times so you can get it right. And there are times it may be frustrating. I remember when I was applying for graduate schools, I had to write probably more than 5 times my personal statement because it had to be concise and straight to the point, and I had to sell myself to the graduate programs because I wanted them to take me and not someone else. So this process here of this exercise was definitely going to help you. So you want to take a moment to work on this worksheet. And the worksheet we're talking about is, of course, you're going to find it on D2L. And just to show you which one it is, it's this personal statement worksheet 1. So we want you to just be specific as possible in detail in answering these questions, okay? And take your time with this. Take your time. Don't get over frustrated, but this is just something to help you start writing your personal statement. Now, the overview of the personal statement, it should include 2 different types of information, both your academic interest and information about the graduate program and how you should relate to your interests, how your interests relate to the graduate program. So academic interest and how your interests relate to the program. Because remember, at times, the admissions committee may believe that you are an amazing candidate, but your interests may not fit that of the program. And it's not that they don't want you there, it's just they're looking for candidates who fit the interests together with the interests of the applicant and the interests of the graduate school. Because graduate school is pretty competitive, right? For top programs, for any program, it's pretty competitive, and they want to make sure they get the right fit. I can remember when I was in graduate school in my master's program in political science at Oklahoma State University, there were about 5 candidates who dropped out their first semester. Not even at the end of the first semester. I mean, like within the first 2 months. It wasn't that they were great candidates. It's just that their interests just did not align with the graduate program, right? And every graduate program wants to avoid students dropping or leaving the program, because that's why they're very critical in the admissions process to make sure that your interest and the school's interest, the graduate school interest, matches together. Okay, so that's why it's very important in a personal statement that you emphasize that, and that's why that worksheet we just showed really helps you in selling yourself. Now, here is develop an outline for you, right? So you have your prompt, right? What is driving you? What is driving you? So this is where you're going to list your academic interest, your research interest. What are your long-term goals, right? Where do you see yourself 5, 10 years from now? Do you see yourself as a director of a program? Do you see yourself as a professor? Maybe a professor at a community college, professor at a 4-year institution, professor at a Hispanic serving institution, or a professor at a historically black college? Or where do you see yourself, right? You have to kind of list your long-term goals. What are your work and volunteer experiences? This is where, let's say, for example, you volunteered for the Boys and Girls Club of Chicago, or you worked for a nonprofit organization in the city of Chicago or in the suburbs or elsewhere, right? You volunteered in, let's say, somewhere in Latin America or in Asia, right? This is where you are aligning and stating your experiences. And of course, your special skills, your honors and awards. So if you wanted awards, you want to list that. But, and we'll talk more about it further on, you want to make sure that these work and volunteer experiences relate to the program. So for example, let's just say you worked at an accounting firm for the summer and you're applying for a master's in social work program. do you really want to put your accounting experience there? Possibly not, because unless there's some type of connection there, maybe you're doing accounting for a nonprofit organization, maybe, and you see how your skills can, or your experiences help you go to this graduate program. But if it relates nothing, if your experience relates nothing to that program, you may want to save it for the CV or save it for elsewhere. So, some sample prompts. Okay, so look in here at Northeastern Illinois University's and USC's Political Science Master's program. The sample prompts of what they're looking for is terms to write. You can see sometimes it's very vague, and you just don't know, well, what should I put? If they're very vague, they're just asking me what are my professional goals or academic goals. That's why that worksheet you just showed, it kind of helps you kind of tone it down, tone it up, and make sure you're emphasizing on what your academic and professional goals, right? The school is designed to get the questions answered, right? Like I said, some schools such as NEIU and USC are very general. They give you no structure, but you already know how to structure it to the components of the worksheets that we showed you, right? So that's why it's important to do the worksheets, because once you do the worksheets, then you'll be able to answer these prompts, right? Because if you answer the prompts first, if you go straight to the prompts first, you're going to have a difficult time answering the questions. But if you do the worksheets first, the prompts is going to be a little less challenging, right? And of course, everything not related to the prompt, you can save it for the CV, okay? You don't have to list every single thing you've accomplished or every single work experience that you had. That's what the CV is for. That's where you list everything. You're just putting in the prompts in the essay questions and the answers and such. You're just putting what relates to the prompt, okay? So let's look more in depth into UIC's social work program. So the program really wants they're really asking you for specific questions. It's just not a prompt, a simple general prompt. Now it's like they want these questions answered fully, and if you don't answer the questions, it could really affect your applications. That it can affect your admissions to the program. And the reason they do these questions is because they're trying to see if you're a fit for the program. As I mentioned before, they want to make sure that they get adequate, great applicants for the program so both parties benefit. So you benefit and the school benefits. Because they don't want students just dropping off left and right, and they want to avoid that. They want the best for both parties, okay? And answer the questions that they mentioned, right? And also go and research the mission of the program, right? And use a similar wording. So if you look at the mission of the school, use some of the language that they're using. Okay, use the language of the social work world, right? So use that type of wording that you see on the website. Okay. Now another one, the Emory PhD program. They've asked for no more than 3 pages, and you can see here how they're really into research, right? That they really want to know your research experience. And this is where you can emphasize your McNair research, right? So, because in the PhD program, right, they're getting really into the theory, okay? They're really getting into scholarly work. So they want to see, are you a good fit for this program, for the scholarly work, okay? So really emphasize, look into the prompt, look into the questions, and of course the worksheets provided will really help you with this. Now, when it talks about the academic histories, this is where you're going to emphasize about yourself, right? Be aware that in relation to your academic and professional goals, only present information related to the program, right? Only emphasize what would prompt your interest and those of the program, okay? So as I mentioned before, if you've had an experience, let's say working for an accounting firm or something that you did with accounting, and you're applying for a social work program or for some other type of, in the social sciences, and that accounting has no relation, that accounting experience has no relations to the program, then leave it out. Don't put it in the prompt. Don't put it in the essay. Leave that for the CV. Now, but of course, if If that accounting you did was for a nonprofit or related to nonprofits, organizations, or something in your academic field, then you may want to emphasize how that helped you, with your academic and how that's going to help your academic and professional goals. But remember, if it has nothing to do with the program or no relations at all, leave it out. You don't have to put every single award. You don't have to put every single experience in the essay, because remember, you only may have 1 or 2 pages to kind of really shine or to sell yourself, right? You want to make sure that every single sentence, every single word counts. Now, we're getting more into specific program information. When researching academic programs, research the faculty and the research interest and how it relates to their program. Okay? So, look at the website, look at the faculty. Okay? See what their expertise is and how you can fit into that. For example, when I was applying for the graduate program for a master's in political science at Oklahoma State University, I looked at the faculty website, right? And I saw what type of research every single professor focused on. And I saw one professor who focused on Latin America because I wanted to research further into Latin America, because my McNair research was on Plan Colombia and, of course, Latin American and U.S. and Latin American policy in Colombia. So I wanted to continue emphasizing in Latin American and U.S. relations policy. So I saw this professor that really focused in Latin America, and so I emphasized in my essay I would really like to continue researching in Latin America and working with this professor. I emphasized the professor's name. So I was really specific of, this is my research interest and this is the professor I would like to work with. Now, because I did that, right, well, I got into the program, and once I got into the program, after the first semester, the professor left the university for another job. I was stuck in, I was like, wow, so this only professor that focused on Latin America, she is gone. This professor is gone. What do I do now? The good thing, I saw the upside too. The bad thing was like, man, she left, and now what am I going to do? Am I going to leave this program? I did not leave the program because I saw another professor who focused on foreign policy. I was like, okay, this professor is great. He's very well known in the field. He knows foreign policy. He may not be so specific on Latin America, but he does know foreign policy and he can help with that. So I spoke with that professor. Well, after the spring semester in the summer, that professor took another job at a different university. But I was like, wow, okay, what do I do now? It's the summer. Do I transfer programs or not? Don't freak out, right? There are plenty of other faculty in that program that, you know what? Once you get into the program, you may change your research interest, and that's totally fine, okay? So when you write your essay, right, of course, be specific to the program faculty, that's fine. Look at the other faculty members, because it may be that after you take a class or two with a different professor, your research interest may change, and that's totally fine. Though, just because you're focused on one particular topic or one specific topic, don't think that it's locked forever. It may change. For me, it changed significantly. I went from Latin American policy to civic education and voting, right, amongst young Hispanics in the U.S. It totally changed, like a 360 degree. And that's because I met other fabulous faculty. I took other classes and it changed my research interest. That's fine. So when you write this essay, right, just focus on the faculty that's currently on the website. But don't freak out once you get there that faculty left, because your research interest may change later on, okay? Now, about the program. So when you're in this program, you also want to emphasize when your academic interest, right, is why should they accept you into this program? You want to emphasize your McNair research, okay? Because they're looking to see also what are your research experiences? Have you done some type of research beyond maybe the 3 or 4 page essay you've written in your classes? They want to really see, have you done any research? And when you emphasize your McNair research, you want to say something that the results taught me that, and then this is why I want to continue this research in graduate school. So maybe the results taught me that not every single young Hispanic votes for the majority the Democrat Party. That is why I want to continue research in graduate school as to the voting behaviors of young Hispanics. Something in that sort that relates, right? I'm just saying it to go with the sentence, but your research, right? What did it teach you? What did you learn about your results from your McNair research, and how you plan on pursuing that in your research in graduate school? So this is where the emphasis of your McNair research really comes into play. And of course, you want to continue your research experience. How has this experience of writing this McNair research, how has it transformed you? How has it made you a better scholar? How has it made you research more in terms of the scholarly worlds? You probably want to mention that I've known more of faculty or research experts in this field. It made me transform into a better student. It made me realize I can work well with a professor as a mentor, my mentor as a professor, right? You really want to see and what differences or what issues came about when you did this research on the particular field. You know, what did you come up with, or what did you search, and what do you want to continue studying? So you want to talk and emphasis about your research experience, right? So in your research experience, you want to include possibly a mini abstract of your research. You're not going to write the entire research, of course, but you may want to put a couple sentences as to an abstract of your research. You maybe only have 2 or 3 sentences to write this, because remember, the essay you'll probably given 1 or 2 pages to write max. So you really want to really tone it down to your research, your abstract, into maybe 1 or 2 sentences, maybe, because that's maybe you will all have when you write your entire paper. Of course, you want to include who your mentor was for this paper, because you never know in the admissions committee if that professor is well known in their own field, or if that in the admissions committee, if someone knows that professor, because the world is small, and especially in academics, in the field that you're studying, a lot of professors know each other. So, for example, you may be applying to, let's just say, Northern Illinois University PhD program up there, and you emphasize who your mentor was in your McNair research, and you never know in that admissions committee if one of the members there is really good friends with your mentor, really knew that person, and said, well, I really have strong words for this mentor. I know this is a great mentor, and because this mentor worked with the student, I know it'd be a great candidate for our program. Because you never know, right? The mentor may have a really good name with other individuals, and it may help boost you up in the admissions. So always emphasize who your mentor was, and of course state the name of your research. And of course discuss the opportunity to receive feedback from other scholars. And of course, you want to emphasize when you presented your research, what did you learn from it? So when you present your research at a McNair conference or another conference, good questions may come up about your research that you never thought about. And that's great, because, for example, when you present at a McNair conference and someone asks you a good question, you may want to say, well, when I presented at such and such conference, this question came up. Therefore, I want to continue doing this research because this great question came up that I want to answer. Of course, discuss other research projects or how they influence your decision studying the field. Possibly include small research proposal. Now, if you're applying for a PhD program, it would be a really good idea to emphasize a research proposal. Because remember, in a PhD program, you're doing more research. Not that you're not going to do it in a master's program, but in a PhD program, they're really looking for that, because now many PhD programs, before you graduate, they want at least for you to publish in a journal article, right? And they really want to focus on that research.